Hi, this is Mr. Payton. I'm going to be starting a new series called The Science of Everything. This is episode 1, the engineering design process. The engineering design process is what many engineers will use to solve a problem. That's the first thing we have to consider here. When engineers make buildings or bridges, or if they're making something for part of a car or a machine, it's generally to solve a problem or to improve a process. And so this process that we're going to be learning has several parts to it. And the parts, you can go back and forth to those parts, you can recycle those parts and do them again. But there are a couple of areas we want to talk about. First and foremost, engineering design process also can be shortened to EDP. Part 1 is the question. So whenever we're solving a problem, we're trying to answer a question. Why isn't it working? Why isn't it efficient? How can we get people from one side of the ocean to the other, which is how they solve the problem of creating a bridge. So first we have to establish a question. So what that means for the user is you literally have to write out a question that is going to address the problem that you're trying to solve. Step 2, brainstorm. Come up with some ideas. They don't have to be perfect, but just start generating some solutions which will eventually lead to some of the processes that you will use to try to solve the problem. Step 3, make a plan. This is where a lot of people like to skip. Most people just want to try things and fail. So, and we call that the trial and error method. And that's okay, but it's not the most efficient thing to do. A better approach would be to look at that question, think about those brainstorming ideas, and come up with a systematic approach. I would say no less than 5 steps as you're trying to figure out how you're going to go about solving this problem. Part 4, which is generally the most fun part or the most engaging part of the process, which is to create. So if you go all the way back to before the time when we had automobiles, someone had to create wheels, a motor, an engine, all of the parts that are in the cars that we drive around in now. And so as you're creating things, you're actually manufacturing or designing this new piece of equipment or this solution to your problem. The next step may be the most critical of all, though, analysis. In analysis, you're looking for weaknesses or looking for areas of improvement. Once you've made a prototype, which is your first creation, now you're trying to figure out, does it work? Did it actually solve the problem? And if it doesn't, what things can be changed, improved, or replaced? Next is going to be a reflection period. So now that you've done the analysis, what did you learn? Is the answer yes, it solved the problem? To what extent did it solve that problem? Or if the answer is no, do you just need to make minor tweaks, minor repairs, minor replacements, or do you need to start from scratch and go all the way back up to part 2 where we're brainstorming? These are all just parts of the process, and the key is to not get frustrated as you go through this process. Anytime you want to solve a problem, you shouldn't expect it to be easy. You should expect it to be a process, not just I found one solution, that's it, done. Finally, when you're done with all of this, whether you were successful or not, there needs to be a communication piece. For most of us, all that means is share out. That may just mean talking to your team. That may be presenting to a group of people, or it may just be documentation on your part. That documentation can be through pictures, through words, it could be through video, it could be audio where you just, a lot of, especially in the old days, people would walk around with tape recorders and just kind of talk about the things that they saw or things that they observed. That's the communication piece. That's the part where you're allowing others to hear what your conclusions, your analyses have been for that process, and giving them an opportunity to possibly give some input, or possibly just for you to record and have that information down to inform you about what your next steps to be. So let's review just quickly. The engineering design process, or the EDP, contains roughly 7 steps. There could be more depending on how detailed you want to break them up. But it begins with question. Next would be brainstorm, planning, creation, analysis, reflection, and communication. These are the steps that are used to try to solve problems, to create new things, to innovate. Many of us have possibly learned the scientific method, and if you look at them side by side, there are lots of similarities. I hope that you look at the engineering design process as an opportunity to create some wonderful things and to innovate on some products that are already existing and make them better. This has been episode 1 of The Science of Everything. Thank you for watching.